Mr. Kiley for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here to testify. Director Peters, I've always strongly believed that a well-functioning criminal justice system needs to have appropriate penalties for offenders, while at the same time having evidence-based tools for rehabilitation in order to facilitate the reentry of prisoners into society when they are released and to make them productive members of society. And, I come from a state, California, where unfortunately both objectives have not been achieved, where we've lowered penalties across the board in really reckless ways while also undercutting the capacity of our criminal justice system to rehabilitate offenders. For example, a law called Prop 47 effectively legalized drug use, and that not only has led to the sort of horrific scenes that we see in places like San Francisco, but it's also decimated the drug courts in our state because offenders no longer have any sort of entry point to then be, forced to go into some sort of drug treatment program, and so people are not able to overcome their addictions. So properly understood, I believe that punishment and rehabilitation are not sort of contrasting approaches to criminal justice, but rather they go hand in hand and are both serving the interest of public safety. Another way in which this has sort of gone awry in California is something called realignment, where a lot of our serious offenders have been moved from the prisons into the county jails, which aren't really set up to have the sort of rehabilitation programs that are evidence-based and will help people to turn their lives around. So I'm always looking for suggestions for my state, for the likes of Governor Newsom, who have gotten this so wrong. And I'm looking at other states, and I know that the federal government, the federal correction system, has recently undertaken some different approaches to rehabilitation with literacy programs, occupational education programs, trade skill programs, substance abuse disorder programs. So I was hoping you could just give us a little sense of how this is working out and where you've seen success.
Thank you, Congressman. So as your previous neighbor to the north, as the director of the Oregon Department of Corrections, I know that in my capacity there, we collaborated closely with the California Department of Corrections on evidence-based programs, on these principles of normalcy and humanity. And at the Federal Bureau of Prisons, I think our mission aligns with everything that you've just said. It's dual mission. Our job is to ensure public safety, both inside our institutions, but also when they leave our institutions. I'm a former victims advocate, so I believe strongly that our job is to ensure they don't create new victims on the way out. But that second half of our mission is equally as important, and that's about providing programming and treatment and education so that they have the resources they need and the skills they need when they leave to be those productive tax-paying citizens. I think one of the jewels at the Federal Bureau of Prisons is our reentry centers in the community, where we're able to contract with experts who live in those neighborhoods, live in those communities, and continue those services as they safely transition back into our neighborhoods.
Would you agree with my assessment, since you have some insight on the matter, that California's realignment has shifted, offenders into an institutional setting that is not well equipped to provide proper evidence-based rehabilitation?
Congressman, I know enough about it to be familiar with what you're saying, but I'm certainly not expert enough to speak to the benefits or the outcomes of that process.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Congressman.